It is still iBrand Daybreak. The focus for today is on the organized labor, as they have demanded 615,000 naira as the new minimum wage for workers to cope with the many economic realities and high cost of living in Nigeria. The new wage of 615,000 naira monthly was reached after consultations between the NLC and the Trade Union Congress. The labor union said the current minimum wage of 30,000 naira can no longer cater for the well-being of an average Nigerian worker, lamenting that not all governors are paying the current wage award, which will expire by April, 5 years after the Minimum Wage Act of 2019 was signed by former President Muhammadu Buhari. The NLC had announced 1 million naira as the new minimum wage due to the rising inflation in the country, which had pushed many into poverty, while the TUC demanded 447,000 naira as the new monthly minimum wage per worker. The NLC later requested 794,000 naira per worker, but it was gathered that the two unions, in a fresh proposal to the government, presented 615,000 naira as the new minimum wage for workers. To have this conversation with us and joining us over the phone is Dr. Dayo Kayode. He's a political technocrat. Good morning, Dr. Dayo. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, it's my pleasure being with you this morning. Uche, how are you? Josh, how was the night?
Morning, Chief. Good morning.
All right, let's start off this way. 615,000 naira. Before we get into the issues that brought the organized labor to the point of making this decision, do you think that 615,000 naira minimum wage is feasible in Nigeria with the current situation that we're having to deal with?
Yes, you see, I will keep on saying it. Just I have been saying in the past that labor needs to wake up and revolutionize his thinking. Somebody who has not been able to pay 30,000 naira as minimum wage is the person who now wants to be paying 600 and something as minimum wage. Is that visible? It's not visible. And I have told them all they need to be looking for and to be asking for is sustainable minimum living standard. Sustainable minimum living standard. Now listen, we have been given 615 minimum wage as minimum wage. What will level 16 be earning? Level 16. What will such a person be earning? Like, for instance, our permanent secretaries. How much will they be earning? Will the government be able to sustain that with our economy? Who pays that? What labor is supposed to face, they are not facing it. What they are supposed to face, they are not facing it. When airpeace was being given undue treatment at the airport, I was expecting labor to come out to talk about it. They have their members in the ministry because they know for airpeace to be going from Nigeria to London, it will be employing people. It's Nigerians that will be part of NLC that will be working there. When National Assembly was importing SUV for their members, I was expecting labor to go out and storm the place to let them know that we have companies in Nigeria that can supply you SUV. Because now we increase their membership. When most Nigerian government and political appointees were buying imported cars, I've been expecting labor to come into that. Because all this will now stop putting pressure, we stop the pressure being put on dollar. That is making things to be expensive. When petrol was increased from 190 naira per liter to over 600 naira per liter now, I'd expected Labour to have brought that thing back to 190 naira. Because there are facts and figures to show that NNPC was making a profit of 100 naira per liter when it's being sold for 190 naira per liter. These are things that I suppose NLC to have been doing to have brought down the cost of living, so that whatever amount they are taking home will sustain them for the month. Rather, we are now asking for frivolities, things that cannot be achieved. Are you just talking for talking's sake? Nigerians have become more enlightened now. You are still using Pasumolu's strategies. You're supposed to attain your strategies. Don't you go for conferences organized by International Labour Organization and learn from others how they operate? Well, it's a pity. It's a pity.
All right. I like your submission, and on that basis, I will then take up my questions. But before then, some states, about 15 states, are even yet to fall in line as regards paying the minimum wage of 30,000. Now, NLC is coming up with a proposal of 615,000 naira as minimum wage.
Yes.
Now, my question to you, Doctor, is this. An American worker at the federal level earns about $7.25 on an hourly basis, which is about 8,700 naira equivalents when I go by 1,200 naira, as the case may be, at the international market. Now, my question is, do we go the hourly basis of paying people their wages, or do we look at critical sectors that needs to be subsidized? Number one, the food sector. Number two, the transport sector. Number three, the building material sector, such that it will trickle down on the average tenancy rent, where some people have to pay a fortune to be able to secure a rent. Should that be the way to go, or the hourly basis?
Yes, I appreciate this one you have brought up, Josh. And let me tell you this. You cannot compare a worker in America, like you said, to that a worker in Nigeria, because there is no basis for comparison between their various office holders. Their various office holders. Now, when you look at how much a worker in America is earning, then also go and look at the tax variable there, the tax factors there, in that particular amount is earning. Then when you look at that tax, how much is paid as tax, you now also go further to see how that tax is not working for the workers to be able to live a very high standard of living as unlike that of Nigeria. Because I tell you, listen now, you ask two questions. Let me finish properly, please. Now, food is the cheapest thing you can come by in the Western world. Food, clothing, housing. Because 90% of the houses are owned by the government and they control it. Listen, ordinary egg, I was surprised when I went to supermarket in Columbus, Ohio, and they were telling me that the price of this is this, the price of this is that. And I said, why? They now said, this one, they just brought it today. So it's very fresh. This one was brought in yesterday. That was what now informed the price disparity. And anyone that has stayed on the shelf for, I think, 4 days, they will remove it. Do we have such here? No. So you cannot compare that place with this place. All we need to do is what exactly is happening What are the circumstances within our environment? Then how do we play around those circumstances to give us a healthy living? That's what we're supposed to look at. And unfortunately, Labour is not thinking that way. They are just doing gra. Without conceptual thinking. Before you can achieve anything, you have to be conceptual in your thinking and your action. And that is exactly what I have just explained as regards to this your question, Josh.
All right. So when you say the average thing that the Western world tried to conquer is food. Now my question back to you is, if going the hourly basis as per paying for minimum wage is not sustainable, because I'm not even looking at the conversation of at every interval, Labour comes on the table and say pay minimum wage of this amount to workers. That in itself is not sustainable. If hourly basis is not sustainable, are we to look into deeply the critical sectors that needs to be subsidized, such that even if you pay an average earner a penny, that money is likely to go a long way? Because most of the sectors that such persons, engage in on a daily, for instance, you eat on a daily, you apply public transport on a daily, you are able to pay your rent, sometimes monthly as the case may be, or annually basis. These sectors needs to be looked into so that when it is subsidized, whatever you pay an average earner, it takes home that particular amount and it covers it. Should we be looking at that area, or should we be looking at payment of minimum wage on an annual basis, or let's say on an hourly basis, so to speak?
Yes, Josh, are you with me?
I'm listening.
We are still paying wages monthly. So people are still defaulting. Not to now talk of paying hourly or weekly as it used to be done there, as they are doing over there. Over there is rule of law. When you don't pay your worker, that company will be sanctioned. And that worker will be compensated. Because the system knows that the worker has a responsibility to fulfill. And nobody is asked to fulfill some responsibility for you. So it is a chain of events, chain of actions, chain of activities. Do we have it here? No. Listen, when they do a lot of subsidy over there with taxes, but you don't see them embezzling those subsidy monies. Unlike here, EFCC just said yesterday that Abacha recovered looted funds. Part of it had been looted by Edu. They found the money in an account. EFCC said it yesterday. I'm quoting EFCC now. Okay, these are monies that is supposed to have pumped into subsidy activities. But they be saying they cannot subsidize this. You cannot subsidize that. Okay, what do you want to subsidize? How do you make citizens to live well? When you say there be nothing like subsidy. Then while you go on all those countries, you see how subsidy works. You see how tax works. But here, we are better today. What I'm saying in essence is this, Josh. For us to be able to live accordingly, there are certain things that should be done. One, there must be rule of law and must be followed to letter. Two, issue of corruption must be curbed. And for these first 2 points to work, then I give you the third one. We must start building institutions rather than strong men. These are things that I had expected NLC to be agitating for, to ensure that all these things work well in our nation. That is the only time that whatever amount of money is given to labor will be able to sustain them accordingly, effectively, and appropriately.
The principle guiding NLC, that's my next question to you. The principle or laws guiding NLC, does it also cut across the private sector? That's number one. Number two, when the issue of minimum wage comes up, we're always looking at the area of perhaps a state worker, a civil servant at the state level, federal level, or local government level. When will we bring in the issue of the private sector, especially looking at it from the minimum wage that they take home?
Yes. I will tell you this. That's why I said we don't have effective rule of law in our country. And to that extent, it's difficult for us to be comparing our country with other Western nations. Let us take the issue of iBrand as an example. If you, Josh, decide today that, okay, you want to join labor, the owner of that place will tell you, okay, please, go away. Go and join labor. I don't want you here again. That's why it's found that there are conditions for employing you. But if you not say you want to take him to court, what about court processes? It's so expensive. They know that you cannot take them to court. You don't have the capacity to do that. So there is oppression already. What I'm saying in essence is, for private companies, workers are supposed to be part of NLC, but they don't allow it. They tell you, listen, no, nothing like labor here when you are being employed. And you that is looking for work, because you know there is no job outside, you say, okay, sir, where do you go from there? How will labor now come in? Does labor know that you are in that place you are? That your office is where it is? When you don't register with them? When you don't have an account with them? When you don't remit any money to them? So, I mean, they call it check dues. When you don't remit check dues to them, so how will they come there to rescue you? So that's the issue. It is only some very big known private companies, like all these private airlines now, that can maybe one way or the other, no new. It's not that they've been aligned into, So it is difficult for that. Then two, when you're looking at the operations of the NLC, vis-a-vis the rules and regulations, the constitutional provision that guides NLC, their leadership there, do they even know it? Even when they know it, do they know how to interpret it? Do they know how to make effective use of it? Just like we have been discussing before now. Things that they are supposed to do, they won't do. Things they're supposed to do, they won't do. Because they have refused to revolutionize their thinking away from Modu and Pasumanu's way of doing things. They do this.
All right, quickly, as we round off, Dr. D, this morning during our newspaper review, we came across a story that said that inflation rate has gone up to 33.20%, and despite Naira rebound, inflation is still going up. Prices of goods and services and food stuff in the market are still on the rise. We don't even want to talk about the recent tariff hike in the power sector. These issues compound, some of the challenges that the average individual is going through, which of course, links to why the labor says that they are demanding or making the demand that they are making as regards the new minimum wage, the new proposed minimum wage of 615,000 naira. Now, maybe a bit disconnected. I'd like for us to disconnect these two conversations because we moved on from the minimum wage. The issue of inflation and the rates from of the naira against the dollar, continues getting better, like we like to say it. As at this morning, the naira against dollar was trading at below 1,100 naira, and yet prices of goods and services are still not coming down. Quickly, if you can answer me this in 3 minutes, do you agree with the school of thought out there who says that this decrease in the price of dollar, or should I say the rate of the dollar as against the naira, is artificial, as we cannot feel it in the regular business environment here in Nigeria? How do you react to that?
Yes. Okay, you see, under normal condition on the line, when the rate of dollar to your local currency is coming down, prices of goods and services supposed to come down. But the question is this: before this administration, dollar was around 600 naira. 600 naira. But all of a sudden, it was getting to 2,000. And people started giving a narrative that because Nigeria is not producing this, because Nigeria is not producing again, this. And we started asking them, what is Cotonou producing that is making Cotonou's currency to be stronger than that of Naira? And this started coming down. So that is to tell you that along the line, because there is nothing we have produced now in the last 3 weeks that has made this to come down, no. That means along the line, there is a kind of insincerity somewhere. Insincerity somewhere. Okay, listen to this. In the past 2 days, I've been seeing governors giving all these poultry farmers names and all that, and they've been promising that okay, they are reducing the prices of egg, prices of fowl and all that. I wanted to buy egg yesterday. Egg that we used to buy 40 naira, and somebody was telling me it's now 200 naira. I said, but they even said they have reduced the prices of poultry products. So why is it like this? So you cannot see insincerity. And why is that insincerity still festering? And I will tell you, a group that is being led by insincere people will always have insincerity festering within that group. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Dayo, for your submissions on the show this morning. We really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate the conversations too. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too. All right, it is still iBrand Daybreak, and that's so much we have for you on the major conversation for this morning. When we return from this quick timeout, it will be Daybreak Sports with Dennis Ofik. Stay with us.